My name is Erik Van Horn. I bought my first franchise in my 20s, and since then, I've owned 6 brands with 25 stores in 8 states. I've also helped 1,000 people find the right franchise for them. People like us who are not cut out for the 9 to 5 and like to work smarter, not harder. How do we find the right franchise, buy it, grow it, sell it, and how do we do it in a way to own the business without it owning us? Those are the questions, and I'm on a mission to give you the answers. Welcome to Franchise Secrets. Hey everyone, welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Erik here, and today I am going to talk about what you need to know before you buy your second brand. Now, I've bought 7 different brands over the time that I've been in franchising. There's some things that I've learned along the way. I've learned about myself, things that I did right and I did wrong through this. And I hope to help all of you that maybe you own one brand right now and you're thinking about buying a second brand, or you're thinking about continuing in your first brand as you build that out. So I just want to share some of my experience with everyone today. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that were difficult, the hard things, some of the things that I found a little bit easier, things that I learned from my first brand that helped me. Then I want to get into some mindset stuff because I don't know if you're like me, like timing and the fear of losing money and just even my own leadership capability and what I'm good at and what I found out that I wasn't so good at, how that played into my second and third and ultimately my 7th brand. So why don't we just dive into it here? So one of the things that I found hard was going from my first location. So I was in the tax business and I had locations there, and then I expanded my second year. And the things that worked for me my first year did not work so well my second year. I thought I could just take what I learned there and then just kind of duplicate that again. But at scale, problems scale, issues scale. All of the things that didn't work scale along with the things that are successful in scaling your business. So just think about that. As you are going from your first brand to your second brand, think about your first location to your second location. There's a lot of similarities there. At least that I found when I went into my second brand, and I made some mistakes along the way, things that I thought I had overcome, things that I did that I wanted to improve on. I didn't improve as much as I thought I did. So it wasn't as easy as I thought, but my gosh, that's business, right? I mean, business is not easy. And us entrepreneurs in franchising, we know that it's not always easy, but that doesn't stop us. So something else that was hard is I ran away from some of the things that were difficult in that first brand. You know, it was, they were seasonal employees, and we had to hire seasonal employees every year. And that was just a lot of work to do. And that's something that I did not like about that first brand. And so at my next brand, I didn't want like seasonal employees. And so there's one of the things that I ran away from. But then I found out there are problems with full-time employees, and you get some that are they're just trying to get a wage and they're not very good. And so I had to fire more people when they weren't full-time. So employees are the problem for many of us that are business owners. And that's why I started to tend to go to semi-absentee businesses where I just didn't want many employees. Now, even with that, where let's say you have a bunch of employees, you're more in that staffing type business and you're wanting to get away from having so many employees. Well, the challenge is when you don't have many employees, maybe you have, let's say 3 employees, they all have a job to do and they usually get it done. What happens when one of them quits? Well, now I wish I had a deeper bench of employees so I could promote somebody to the position of manager or district manager because something happens at the top. When you don't have a deep bench of employees, you can't really do that. And you need to go hire somebody and train somebody. So there are things that I love about that semi-absentee business with very few employees, but there's also the flip side, which is hard. So can we talk about some of the things that I did learn from my first brand? Let me give some quick backstory too. So I started out in Liberty Tax. That was my first one. I started in Kansas City, moved over to Austin, Texas, and I had 12 stores over my 9 years with them that I owned and operated myself. Some of them I started from scratch. Some of them I bought out from other franchisees, and some were at a normal price and some of them were underperforming. So there was 12 stores that I bought over the years. And then I also had that regional development or area development, whatever you want to call it. I started with four stores and that were under my watch there, and I made 50% of the royalties. And I sold it when I had 42 stores. So that's how I cut my teeth in franchising, owning 12 stores and helping 42 stores get open in the Austin, Texas region. So I helped a lot of franchisees get their stores opened up as well. Transitioned out of there into a senior care brand as a franchise area developer or regional developer. And I grew the Southern California market. So I absolutely loved the area development, regional development role where I helped franchisees grow and scale their businesses. And that's part of the reason, just to sidetrack a little bit. I'm doing an event in Nashville this summer to help franchisees grow and scale their business. I'm bringing a bunch of my friends in and just some franchise experts to help franchisees in all kinds of industries all come together in one spot and help everyone grow and scale their businesses, the problems that they're having and the issues that they have and the things that they're doing right. Like, how do we do more of that? So that'll be in Nashville. If you're interested in that, just go on to the Franchise Secrets website and we should have something on that somewhere, or just message me. But anyway, I loved coaching and helping franchisees become more successful. And that's what I did in that second business. Then I got into the third business, which is this goes into, I wanted less employees. I didn't want seasonal employees and I didn't want very many employees. And that's when I got into the salon suite business. And I owned Sola Salon Studios and eventually had an 8-figure exit there. But at the peak, I think we had about 5 or 6 full-time employees managing 12 different locations. And it was a great business. I loved it. But I did have some concern when you have one of your best people leave. And guess what? Murphy's Law, it happened. Mirko, I'm still mad at you for that, but you're an incredible friend of mine. So I guess I have to let it go. And you've helped me with so many things over the years. So that was a fear, and that fear came true. So that's the challenge with those types of businesses. So then I went on to own more businesses as an area developer and as a franchisee. But I'll get into those later, maybe. But so I know how to scale a business. And that's one of the things that I learned by opening up 12 locations and buying out underperformers in my first franchise. So that's one of the things that made it easier going into my second and third and fourth brands and beyond, because I took something from each of my experiences and I was able to do that better. And I see this across the board. I have franchisees who are partners, business partners of mine today. And I wanted them as a business partner of mine because I know that they understand the franchise game. Most of them have only been a part of one brand, but bringing them into my world where I'm opening up my fourth brand or fifth brand and bringing them in with franchise experience, I feel so much better because they know how to grow and scale a business. Even though it's just one, they have that DNA now that's a part of them. So you, as an existing franchisee, and here's something that's really important. Even if you are not making all the money in the world, or you have a difficult business and you've gone through difficult things in your business, the success in your next brand is not defined by how much money you made in your first brand. Success in your second brand is really going to be experienced by what you learn, the mistakes that you made, the things that you did right and recognize it, and the things that you did wrong and owned it and changed. That's what's going to make you successful in your second brand. So we all have people in our franchise world that are better than us. I have franchisees that are when all of these brands that I've owned, they're better than me. There's always somebody better than us. So just because you are not the best in your brand does not mean you are not ready for your next brand. I know a lot of people that we all go through difficult times. We all go through the trials. We all go through these things where we can learn from mistakes and we make mistakes. Guys, I have made so many mistakes, but I learned from my mistakes. And I think that's one of the things that sets me apart from a lot of other people in this franchise world is that I own it. I learn from it, and I change as a result of it. So let's go on to this, like hiring and firing and promoting. That's something that if you've done that in your first brand, that's going to serve you really well in your second brand. As a broker, as a consultant, I help a lot of people buy their first brands. I probably help more people than most anybody out there buy their first brand. And a lot of people come from corporate America, and they tell me, they're like, Eric, I'm scared because I've not hired anybody at less than $100,000 for as long as I can remember. So as successful as they are in corporate America, they are so new to this hiring and firing and promoting the average people out there and the average employee. So if you've done that, or you at this point have people that know how to do that in part of your team, you're ready for your second brand, because there's a lot to be said by finding, identifying, and hiring the right people. And you've probably made mistakes hiring. It goes back into my first point. I'm sure you've made mistakes. I've made mistakes hiring. I make them probably every year, but they're getting fewer and farther between. The other thing is fire quickly. We all know that, but it's so much easier said than done. We know to hire slow and to fire fast. And we can read that in a book. We hear that on a podcast, and you guys are like, yeah, that's what we do. But when the time comes, how well do you execute that? That's the thing that you need to take away. If you're getting better at executing that, I didn't say perfect, but if you're getting better at executing that, you're probably ready for your next brand. Along with employees is being able to promote people. And this means goes into delegating. If you are not good at delegating, you're not going to be really good at promoting people. And if you're afraid of hiring people smarter than you, then you're probably not ready to be in business. You probably should just have a job, that way you can always be the smartest person that gets the next position. But us entrepreneurs, us franchisees, need to promote from within, and the more that practice that we have with that, the closer we are to being multi-brand franchisees. Here's something else that I learned too. Not all territories are created equal. And I think a lot of us, when we first got into franchising, the franchisor, they tend to say, doesn't matter what territory you get, they're all good. Here's some things that I've learned, and you've learned, I'm sure, is it's fantastic having the best demographics in your territory. And there are certain markets that's like, yes, that's the best one. But there's also something to be said for having brand awareness within the general market. I'd almost rather have some brand awareness in a general market as opposed to having the best territory in Denver, Colorado, because I'll take a secondary market that has a bunch of brand recognition around it versus like just the best territory in that market. Now, I've done it both ways. But I think we just can understand markets better as existing franchisees. We've been there, we've done that. And so we understand the differences between having the best territory versus having an okay territory with brand recognition around it. So I also think that it's easier for us to be in newer brands because just that confidence level. I think knowing that we've done it before, we're not going into it just like wide-eyed, like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? And you're just learning everything from the franchisor. What bank do I get a bank account from? Do I do an LLC or an S Corp? I need to hire an accountant. How do I hire my first person? What if I go wrong? I need to fire my first person. So you're going into this, you're going to have an easier time than you did your first time because of your experience. So easy to discount our experience. And yet that's probably one of the biggest things that we have going for us is the experience that we have in all the little things, even talking to attorneys and talking to real estate people or negotiating different things with different businesses that you didn't have before your first brand. And now you have that going into your second one. And this allows you to focus on the things that you really need to be focusing on. So that's one of the things. Also, franchisors tend to listen to you more. Like you've been a part of another franchise organization. And they're probably pretty happy to have you on board because they know, just like me when I pick out new business partners that have franchising experience before, there's weight that comes with that. And a franchisor that brings you on as a new franchisee, they tend to listen to you more, and they'll probably like help you with things that they're not going to help somebody that's brand new with, because they don't have the capacity to try new and different things. You might have an opportunity to be on the board, the advisory council, or have something to do talking to their corporate team. So there's some little perks that come along with that too, which is nice. And not everybody wants that. Some people just, they don't want to have anything to do with that. And you don't have to, but I do know that franchisors tend to listen to you more as an existing franchisee or experience with another brand. So the other thing that I've had is a team, people around me that want to grow. And if I've built out an area of my locations in a market and there's really no place else to grow, and your team is always wanting to do something bigger, do something more, and that's the way a team should be, right? Not everybody in that team is going to want to do that. You'll probably want to have somebody on that team that wants to be you when they grow up. And if you don't give them an opportunity within your organization to be the you of that organization, they're going to go someplace else and do that. So this is an interesting opportunity to give equity, or have some equity that somebody could get if they're in that type of position. So let's say you're in your first brand, you're successful and you're happy, and you want to go into your second brand. You have this all-star employee team member that wants to grow with you. Give them some equity. I mean, why wouldn't you? They might have your reasons, so I'm not saying you should, but why wouldn't you? And you don't have to give them real equity. It's as real as it needs to be for them. It's called phantom equity. Look up phantom equity, dive into that a little bit. Basically, they get equity, but they don't have all the downsides of having to do capital calls and different things like that. And they don't, in lieu of that, they don't have voting rights either. So that's something to, if you have somebody that's really good on your team, that's one way to keep them on your team and to keep growing. And then the other thing, banks like it. I mean, I talk to bankers all the time, and they love the experience of having multi-brand experience, different industries, and they just absolutely eat that up. And so do landlords. I mean, you have a very good story to share with a landlord, whatever that is, but it comes from business experience. So I would definitely use that to your advantage, and don't leave that out. I mean, when you're talking to a banker, make sure they know all of that. And especially once you get up to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 brands, they just see the depth of experience that you have. So I want to transition a little bit, and I want to talk about retail and service-based businesses, or just going into different industries. I think I'll just tell you what I'm doing right now. So I've been in the retail part of franchising for a long time now. I'm wanting to transition out of that because I see what a lot of my friends are doing on the service-based side of things in franchising. And this might just go to point number one, the things that I don't like about retail, I'm wanting to get into service. That's probably true if I'm being honest with myself. But I also think there's a level of diversification that comes with that. So when I see people leave training, or my experience, when I leave training from a franchisor, I leave the training and I'm back in my market now. I'm hunting for real estate, which I'm actively doing right now. I have one location open, I think a year later, and I'm getting ready to open up my second one here in the next, I'm still in lease negotiations. So retail takes so long to get open, and you're at the mercy of the franchise, not of the franchisors, but the mercy of what's available in the market conditions and all kinds of different things. So the great thing about it, retail, is there's a lot of semi-absentee nature to it, which I love. But everything has, the good things and the bad things about it. So service, I'm keeping retail stuff, but I'm moving into the service space because I know I can put somebody in place there and they can immediately go out and start generating revenue. I love that about the service-based businesses. So I'm definitely shifting from retail to service. And I see that a lot with people in the beauty industry. They're moving to service-based. I see that in the fitness industry. They're starting to move to service-based stuff. Even in the QSR space, quick service restaurant, like anything that serves food, whether it's KFC or McDonald's or Pizza Hut or any of those, if they are serving food that's called the QSR industry, they come to me and they're like, Eric, I'm so tired of this. It's been great to them, by the way, because I know how well they're doing, but they're tired of it and they wanted to diversify. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons I see people go from single brand to multi-brand is they want that diversification aspect of it. If you're heavily in retail, let's say it's going great. You have 6 locations and you can open up 6 more. Now, keeping that money and diversifying into different industries might become more important than just doubling down. Now, doubling down may be more important to you because you know it, it's easier. So it's just a personal preference at that point of what you want to do. But I see a lot of people shifting from retail into service-based businesses, and they're not all just like a painting business. I had a great conversation with Brian Scudamore with 1-800-GOT-JUNK the other day. And I can't remember how many millions his top performer is doing, but it's many, many millions. And he talked about that. And he's like, in the junk business. And so I know other franchises that are in service-based that have a lot of, you need to be a millionaire to get into these businesses because it's a lot of upfront capital, but it's very semi-absentee. There's a lot of different things. So when you think of service-based businesses, like I would think painting or house cleaning, but think way beyond that because it might have something to do with an outbound service, but it may have a lot of equipment tied to it or just a business on a completely different level than what you would initially think. So mindset. This is, I think, where people have a difficult time and they always wonder timing. Is timing right for me? And you'll never know. I mean, at the end of the day, you will never know. Whenever I go to sell a business, and I've sold a lot of them, I don't know if it's the right time. I've looked back on many of my decisions on selling. It looks like I'm an absolute genius because I sold at the right time. When things changed, things shifted, and I got into something else at the right time. It looks like I'm a genius, but the truth of it is I was okay not selling at the highest point. And I don't need to sell at the highest point. So I think you need to look at where you're going versus what you might lose out on, because you need to be looking forward versus looking back. And that's at least what I've done whenever I've made these decisions to sell. What do I enjoy it anymore? Does this thing that I'm doing, my position, everything bring me joy? That's a big thing. I think once you're a successful entrepreneur, a successful franchisee, the joy aspect of it is really important. At least it is for me. I just do inventory quite often and been doing it this year in early 2020. Is this bringing me joy? If it isn't, why am I still doing it? And how can I offload that to somebody else on my team to do that? Bring on a partner to do that where that thing may bring them joy. So instead of you thinking I have to sell something to get into something else, or I don't have the capacity in my current franchise to do something else, think about it this way. What if I brought in a partner? What if I brought in a high-level district operational person to do some of these things for me and I gave them a piece of equity? You just need to think differently. It's not always, the answer is not always right in front of you because there's different ways to help other people, meaning help employees or bring in another business partner that it might be the right fit for them. And you have to start talking about it. You have to start putting the word out there. You don't put the word out like I'm starting to sell my business because none of us want our employees to think like that. You need to put word out there like, hey, I'm thinking about expanding. I want to bring in somebody, a higher level partner or person or operations manager to take off some of this weight from me. And they're out there and they really enjoy that. So if you don't have joy in doing something anymore, there's probably somebody else that does. That's a great marriage and allows you to stop doing the thing that you don't enjoy doing, to start doing the things that you figured out over the years that you do enjoy doing. So just think about that as far as a mindset goes. And I'll probably talk about a lot of that in Nashville this summer, because I think mindset is something that a lot of people, they just have this, we just get into this groove of, as franchisees, of just thinking one way versus like looking at problems from different angles. And I love having smarter people than me start to look at different things that I'm facing, problems that I'm facing from different angles to help me unlock and give me some keys to change or shift direction that I'm going. So the other one is losing money. Let's say your first franchise was so successful. You crushed it. Your bank account is way different today than it was when you first started. I don't know if you're like me, but I still get that fear. Like, am I going to lose money? Did I just get lucky with my first one? Was it me? Was it my territory? Was it my employee? Was it just the market conditions? What was it that made me such a success? And then am I going to lose that money that I've already made because I'm investing in my other one? I think you need to be, I think it's good to have that element of fear. At least I do for myself. Now, not everything that I've touched has turned to gold. I have not just like been wildly successful with everything that I've done, but for the vast majority of brands that I've been in, it has been way more successful than I could have ever imagined. And so that's why I love franchising. And that's why I talk to you. And that's why I talk to other people in franchising to bring that level of success to you, so you can get into our minds and you can become more successful with that mind share than just trying to do it on your own. But that's always a fear. And you really have to take inventory of that, because I know some franchises, it's hard to fail at them. Like, they've got such great systems and processes. You can be like a below average performer in any other brand. But if you're with some of these that are just incredible franchisors, you're probably going to be making a ton of money with them because they're just that good. Then I know other franchises that are the opposite. You're probably not making as much money. You're having a hard time. And you see other people that are just crushing it in different brands. And you're like, how are they doing that? Well, it might be the brand. So just because you're part of a brand that doesn't have incredibly solid systems doesn't mean you're not a great franchisee. And I've seen this happen. People with average performers in below average franchisors all of a sudden become top performers in other franchisors because they learned so much. So you just really have to know who you are, what you're good at, what you're not, what that franchise was so good at, and what they weren't, and start to look at all of that as you get into your next brand. So, do you have what it takes to own multiple brands? I think you are the only one that's really going to be able to answer that question. And this just goes into validation, right? I mean, as we've looked at different brands and you guys have looked at different brands out there, you can start to see like where you are strong and where you're not. So me, I'm stronger in a leadership capacity. I hate day-to-day management. I can read the financials. I like that. I like to look at things from a high level. I hate to get into the weeds. I hate conference calls or webinars that just go on and on and on, and we have nothing to solve. And I want quick action on stuff. That's who I am. But I can't get in and I would be a horrible manager of a location. I'm just not a really good manager of a location. So I need people around me that are really good managers to manage these locations. And I've been there. I've done that. I've managed, and I'm okay at it. I'm probably less than okay at it. But one of the things that I've learned over the years, seeing where I'm strong and where I'm weak, is to hire people that are better than me. And it's not just some type of thing that I say because I really believe it, because I'm really not that strong in a lot of areas. There's certain areas that I'm really strong in. And I even want to hire smarter people than I am in my strengths. So know what you're good at. Know if you're okay delegating. This is where I'm starting to do some courses on this stuff. But if you are at the point where you are just delegating tasks and you are a good task delegator and you can't go beyond that, you can't delegate projects, you can't delegate ideas, you can't delegate these bigger things to your employees and you have a problem with task management, and that's all you do is task management versus empower your team. So if you really want to go into that next brand, doing multi-brands, you need to be able to go from giving out task management, to empowering them by giving them ideas, giving them projects, giving them a bigger picture of things to do. So that's what I would say. Everyone, we are franchisees. We are entrepreneurs. We love systems that are wrapped around us to help us grow in different markets. And if that is who you are, you probably should always be thinking and looking about different brands. That's why I have a Facebook group for all of us franchisees, and you can find that on my Franchise Secrets website. But if you want to be a part of a group of franchisees like that, join that group. If you always want to kind of keep in the loop on what's out there in terms of buying franchises and asking questions in that group, I have a Facebook group for you. But we're entrepreneurs. We are franchisees, and we are always wanting to take risks. We don't want to take the biggest risks in the world, but I don't think you got into business in the first place to just be with one brand. I think we all want to grow. We all want to expand unless you've reached that point where you are happy and you don't want any more money. You don't want to build your team. You don't want to grow anymore. You are satisfied where you are. You should probably stay where you are. The rest of us, like I said, we're entrepreneurs. We're franchisees. We're always wanting to grow. We're always wanting to get better. And the way that we originally did that, we got into one brand and we expanded in that brand. So just expand with what you know as long as you can. And then you might even want to expand in different markets within that same brand if your team allows you to. If you don't expand in different markets with the same brand, that's when it's time to start looking at different opportunities elsewhere. I know franchisees that have done it both ways, successfully and unsuccessfully. I think the biggest thing is to know yourself and know when you're ready for that. So that's my 2 cents on what I think everybody should know before you buy your second or third brand. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a review. I would love that. I watch them, I read them, and I appreciate them. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.